Hey everybody, how are you? I want to talk today about plasma and this how you can begin to, I guess, become aware of plasma and you can become aware of your personal impact on plasma and how this shapes the world you live in. So these are kind of just metaphors. These are sort of metaphors that we're using to help understand what is quite hard for us to understand. Like, I think recognizing initially that the whole point of being human is to experience limitation, right? The whole point of being human is to be a little bit lost in the sauce, so to speak. So that's why as a human, we feel lonely, we feel like we don't belong, we feel like we have to prove our worth. This is a feature of the human experience that you need to, I guess, what you could call it, you need to just drop deep into limitation um, as part of the process. So, what's useful to kind of understand about plasma and what's useful to kind of understand about you is that you are a creator God. I am a creator God too. We're all creator gods. And plasma is kind of just the stuff that's around us. And when you could liken it to clay, like plasticine when you're making things, right? And your thoughts and the sustained thoughts that become beliefs, right? So a belief is just a thought that is sustained for a very long time. These thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs, they interact with the plasma, they interact with the clay, and they shape reality. So what the reality functions with a little bit of a delay. So you have something, you have a thought, you have it establishes, it forms into a belief. You have feelings that accompany this, it becomes very emotional. And then lo and behold, reality, the plasma, shapes and forms. And that's the reality you encounter. So because you are a creator God, you are constantly creating. Um, the limitations imposed upon us as humans are really just limitations of knowledge, limitations of understanding. The power to create and make is still intact. It's still there. Like we still have these God powers, but we just don't know it. So the big part of the human experience is remembering. And a good way to remember, a good way to kind of is to just become at a micro level aware of this plasma. If plasma sounds like a weird word for you, you could just call it clay. Just become aware of this clay. So everything that you think, everything that you speak, all the things that you feel are interacting with this pre-material and then turning into objects. And that's why we keep coming back to this idea of the world as a mirror. Um, and that's all it is. The world is a neutral, constantly updating reflection of you. And that's all it is. If you're fighting against the world, you're fighting against yourself. When you're upset with the world, you're upset with yourself. When you love the world, you love yourself. But actually, all those things the opposite way around. When you love yourself, you love the world. When you're upset with yourself, you become upset with the world. So n- this brings me to sort of two what I think are kind of crucial components of shaping reality. One is the sense of completeness, establishing a sense of completeness in you. So that just means, and this is something that you can do very easily, right? This is something that when you train, you can come back to completeness, right? So completeness is really just, you could call it calm, you could call it at peace. I think like when I use the term at peace, we all understand what it is to be at peace. We typically kind of have have moments where we go, ah, when I've done this and this and this, then I'll be at peace. That's not how it works. The way to be at peace is not about, it's not really about completing functions in the world. It's not about creating things in the world. It's about establishing that state inside yourself and then moving through your projects with this feeling of peace. This is the key to manifestation too. Do you know what I mean? When we come to this idea of like, oh, when I have the partner, then I'll be at peace. When I have the house, then I'll be at peace. When I'm making whatever K a month, then I'll be at peace. It doesn't work that way because you will achieve that result and not be at peace. So the trick with all manifestation, connected to this theory of completeness, is that you feel the reality into existence. So like a really good example of this often is when you're in a relationship and you're not happy with the relationship. It's got nothing to do with the person. It's got something to do with inside you. There's some sort of a program that's playing out inside of you, and this person is just mirroring back that program to you. This person is just living their life and they're mirroring something back to you. So your work in this situation is to establish the feeling that you want to have in your relationship. And then your partner will either change or they'll just drift away of their own circumstances. That's it. It's very, very, it's way easier than we believe it to be. Way easier. Um, and with all these things, like we kind of, whenever you notice there's a little bit of desperation or dependency in you, come back to this idea of, how can I introduce more completeness? How could I feel more complete right now? How could I be more at peace? How can I establish the feeling, knowing that the feeling will then contribute to the material reality taking shape? The feeling will interact with the clay and make the thing. At a very, very basic example, you like, you feel whatever feeling it is that would be associated with the thing you want, and then you wait. You establish that feeling inside your body, and then you wait for the thing to appear. Um, Quite often you'll realize in this process that once you have established the feeling, that the object is kind of less important, and maybe the object you never wanted in the first place. You know, I mean, for example, I think of this with myself. Like, I have often been kind of a little bit tortured by ambition. And in the last couple of years, I've begun to realize, I haven't written a book in a little while, and largely it's just because I don't feel the need to. Um, some of those books, I really felt a need to like have my name out there and be kind of, I wanted to be seen. That was a big part of the writing of those books, was a kind of a shadow part too, because I wasn't always aware of it. I was just wanting to be seen. Um, Now that I already feel seen by myself and I feel understood by myself, the desire to go write a book has really diminished. It's kind of like just welcomed in a bit of a simpler life for me, to be honest. So, so this is what you can do when you connect to this sense of completeness. Um, you might find that the more you connect to completeness, the less you need to be in relationship. Maybe even the less you need to have kids, the less you need to have material objects. So it's just something you experiment with yourself. Um, and then another element to kind of add to this completeness, and it in a way it's sort of the polar opposite of completeness and its importance. So quite often we 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 create friction in our life by assigning excess importance to reality. An example of this that I noticed in the last couple of years in my current relationship is my partner can be very expressive. She can be angry, she can be sad, a lot of the human things. And I could recognize in me that I needed her to be at peace for me to also be at peace. So I was placing excess importance on her state. There was a dependency, like you could call it a state dependency, where I needed her to be a certain way for me to be a certain way. But when I kind of realized this and I dropped importance and I allowed her to go through the range of her emotions, and I began to sort of just like I began to ignore the effect of it and just was at peace with myself, even while she wasn't at peace. The whole thing changed. I no longer needed her to be this way, and also the range of her emotions began to diminish to the point where it's not like the levels that she used to reach, like she doesn't reach them anymore, right? So this is what happens when we reduce excess importance. Another thing could be like recently I'll give you an example. We recently just got a new place together, and uh, uh, there was a lot of details. I know I mentioned this before, but there was a lot of details in this. We're renting a big house in the middle of the country, and there was a lot of details that would have prevented us from getting it. They didn't want dogs. Um, there was a couple of other elements. It was a commercial building, so you couldn't live in it. It's kind of an unconventional space. It's a shop, and all of these things were sort of just what can I say, details. We applied for the place. I didn't attach any importance, but I just kept following the signals in my body that said, I think I'm going to get this place. I think I'm going to get this place. But was also very complete in myself. It was very interesting. I had this sense of great satisfaction, this sense of like, I'm just satisfied that I feel aligned with this home. It was this beautiful sense of like, oh, this is enough. Just even feeling this alignment with this home feels enough. And lo and behold, like we have the place and we're moving in on the 1st of February and we can live there full time and we can take the dogs. So all of the restrictions, like not to get biblical, but it doesn't say in the Bible something about like God moves mountains, and this force, this energy moves mountains. The obstacles are just plasma. They're clay. They can be reshaped, and they often are reshaped when we don't assign excess importance. It's this idea. I think I love the expression to not have any skin in the game. You know that expression? This sort of sense that either way, I'm okay. And what this truly is it's the art of surrendering to life. It's the art of trusting that I'm allowing life to flow through me. I'm allowing life to bring me to my highest potential. And I'm trusting that I'm kind of stepping back. I no longer have to move from this kind of arrogant place of being in control and having all the answers. I shall humbly follow the flow, diminish importance, connect to the sense of completeness that's already in me, where I am just loving the process. Eckhart Tolle talks about this idea of when you're walking across the room to get a book. While you're walking across the room, that's your purpose in life. Your purpose in life is to walk across the room. When you pick up the book, your purpose in life is to read the book. When you realize you need to go to the bathroom, your purpose in life is to go to the bathroom. While in the bathroom, you look at the mirror, your purpose in life is to observe yourself in a mirror, and so on and so forth. And can you feel complete in just those micro actions? Because if you can, that's how you win life. That's how you completely win life. So that's really what I'm trying to get to this point today is just to remember and reflect, but also just see this in yourself, like really practice this. You're a creator God. Your thoughts and beliefs are like the hands of a craftsman. They go out and they interact with the plasma and the clay and they create reality. This happens at a collective too. We are creating a war at the moment. You know, this is all of us. And it's so why, and not to get too societal on things, but it's so important that people like us, people who are connected to consciousness, people who are waking up, that we can offer a different frequency. Because right now in the world, there's a very strong frequency of war, and we can hold a different frequency. And that's just the frequency of peace, the frequency of love. And all you need to do is establish it in yourself. You don't have to go to the streets with posters. You don't have to get out there and fight the power. You simply return to this sense of completeness inside yourself, because what this is its full energetic coherence. You try this yourself. The next time you are in the company of someone who's in a negative spiral, who's caught up in like a caught up in a waking dream, caught up in a sort of their own negativity. And as long as you can just remain energetically coherent, what that means is you don't get triggered. You don't get pulled into the racing rapid. You just stay in a consistent, coherent, vibratory state. What you'll notice, that person changes. I remember once um, living up in Dharamsala, Dharamkot actually, up in the lower Himalayas in India, and I was studying in a Mahayana Buddhist monastery. There was lots of Westerners there too, and these people from all over the world, and there was a few Tibetans as well. And we would kind of like we would meditate, and then we would read the sutras, and we would live as a monastic group. But every couple of weeks we would wander down into the town, and we'd have dinner together. And I remember uh, how we would go to these restaurants. And I always thought this was a remarkable thing. Like it happened 2 or 3 times. We'd go to these restaurants, and India is extremely loud. We go to these places and it was loud, and there was chatter, and there was music, and there was the noise of plates, and it was such a contrast from the monastery where everything was very quiet. And we'd sit down and we'd order, and slowly throughout the course of the meal, because of the coherence of our little group, the restaurant would become quieter and quieter and quieter. And by the end, as we were leaving, everyone in the place would be whispering. So that's the power that we have. That's what we can do. Our work here really is to be examples of coherence, to be examples of completeness, and avoid the trap that everyone else is falling into, which is assigning excess importance to external reality. That's all. Okay, guys. Really excited to talk to you and see you soon, and hope you're all amazing. Send you loads of love.